pictures.
Okay.
All right. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Welcome to Hustling People Podcast. I'm your host, Yafe Campbell. And today we have some special guests. They're all extraordinary artists. Even Kayla, even our friend here. I'd like you guys to I'd like you women to introduce yourselves. We'll start from here going this way.
Okay. Well, my name is Sharidyn Barnes, and I'm a painter, and I'm actually from Dallas, and I've pretty much been in Dallas my whole life, and I'm 26 years old.
I'm Kayla. I am a therapist.
Oh,
I'm 26 and from Dallas too.
okay. We're all 26. I like that. My name is Dora Zeneth Reynosa. I'm a Mexican visual artist and muralist based in Dallas, Texas now.
Okay. Applause.
Snaps.
Okay. So I would like to get more in depth in what got you into each of your career paths or career fields.
I've been painting drawing since I was like a little kid, and then I was like 10, and I sent like this cartoon into Disney because I was intent on being famous for some strange reason, like at a young age. And then when I was in high school, I used to always draw like I was in like AP art classes, and I used to draw my friends. And then actually won an award in high school. I won like $100, and that was kind of just it for me. And I was pretty good. My high school teacher like pushed me and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I came into um being a working artist right now,
Mhm.
like how I first started.
Yeah, I just noticed growing up as like a Black woman and a person of color that therapy wasn't big. Not because we just didn't really like it, but it wasn't available to us. And so it just really inspired me to be one of those people that could provide therapy to people that look like me and people that didn't have access to it.
I
So
love
that's
that.
been my big motivating factor. So
What type
continue.
of therapy do you do?
I'm a therapist for survivors of sexual violence.
Okay. Dope. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, thank you for providing people with that because it's true. There is a lack of therapists that can provide for people like us,
Yeah,
you know.
for sure.
hmm I got started, I think I was 3 when my dad introduced me to art. And I did that all throughout till I was 11. When I moved to the US, it kind of stopped. Life completely changed. I mean, it was like a culture shock. It was very hard to communicate with people. And life was just completely different. It was like always moving. There was no time to stop. I think it wasn't until I went to college for architecture that I got into art again. I fell in love with like the art side of architecture, the design, but I could not. The profession, it just was not for me. I did 1 year as an architectural intern, and I was like, wow, this is horrible. I just couldn't sit in front of a computer like all day. That's all you do. It was completely different from college. Like college, you're actually like drafting by hand and like building things with your hands. So I was very hands on. But once you go to like the profession, it was like completely different, not what I wanted. So I quit. I was like, I'm not doing this. And then it took a few years for me to realize that I was going to be a painter.
Right.
I was always like into art, but I had never really touched painting. It wasn't until 2018 that I started painting. And then 2019, it was like, okay, this is going to be my full-time job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very impressive. So, so it kind of reminds me of like Virgil Abloh, where I think he has a bachelor's or whatever degree he has in architecture, and then he ended up putting it towards fashion.
It's,
Kind of
yeah,
became
you
something
know,
completely different.
it is different, but the same like foundation it's still there. The whole like constructive um side of design that really stays there. Like my canvases and things, I love building them and stretching them by hand. It's that hands
So you did
on.
that by hand?
Yeah, I build
Oh.
all my canvases by hand. This one was actually given to me or traded to me. So I did not build this one, but I don't like how thin it is, so I'm actually gonna take it off its frame and build a new one for it that's a little bit thicker and more of like a heavy duty, which is how I like my canvases to look and feel. But yeah, I build and hand stretch all of my canvases.
It's good. It's good. So let me ask, do you remember what you sent into Disney?
Yeah, it was like this little cartoon called Black Lightning, and
That is
Was that
so
a-
cool.
it wasn't. It wasn't even
Did they
black.
make something like that?
Yes, they have
They
a
did,
cartoon
yeah.
called Black Lightning, but it was already invented.
Y'all
Oh, I
owe.
see.
Oh, okay. Yeah, y'all still owe something though.
Like they already have one. So it was based off of Static Shock. And the kid had got
Oh,
like
Yeah.
struck by lightning and
Oh yeah.
crashed a car and got struck by lightning.
Mm.
So that was my cartoon. And I was like 10 and I was like, y'all gotta air it. And then they sent me back like a photo of them. Like it was like Mickey Mouse and like Goofy and all them, and it was all signed. So
Oh, that's cool.
kind of
Yeah.
what I wanted. But you could ask Kayla. I was like, I'm gonna be famous doing something in high school. Doing something famous in high school for no apparent reason. Like I actually was doing my own talk show
Yeah.
on Twitter for no apparent reason. Just to be
talk.
just to be talking.
There's a
Like,
reason.
Yeah.
It's all a skill. Communication is a skill. You get good
Mhm.
at it, you can take over anywhere and everywhere. So let me ask you, and this is for everybody. How did how you grew up? How did it affect? Like, how does it affect your work for everybody?
Oh, you want me to start first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you. Doesn't matter.
Where I grew up, like
Yeah, how,
it
how
was
you grew
like
up.
my dad was pretty tough. Like he was very, very disciplined. So, like I was disciplined in sports. So I just kind of applied that same discipline to painting, and it kind of got me where I am today.
Mm.
So I played soccer in college, and then like I ended up quitting my junior year, but I just applied the same level of discipline to painting, and that's kind of how I got to where I am right now.
You took painting like more serious that from junior on, or
Yeah, kind of like
I
like
mean, you kind of always kind of took
yeah,
send
like
something to Disney.
I took it.
I mean,
took it
yeah.
seriously. I took it seriously, but like you don't really have the time when you like playing college soccer because you just got obligations. Like you
Right.
got stuff to do. So like when you quit, when I
College
quit,
is hard enough, and then adding a sport to it.
Yeah,
oh
Can't
Double.
even imagine. I feel like it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Being like in sports in college.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, for sure. It was just like too much. Like so like you have studio classes and that's like 2 hours and a half, and then you got to go practice. So I was just having like 8 hour days sometimes. Like I was not taking any type of rest. Like I would have classes after practice. That's at like 8 and they'd be 2 hours long. And that was like and then I had to go to practice from 3 to like 5 smack that in the day. And then I was just so exhausted. My coach was like, "Why are you so tired?" I'm like,
this
I gotta-
Texas sun is why you.
yeah, like I gotta go to class. I gotta eat and go to class from 6 to 8 after this. Like, and that's just life. So like I get home at like 8 sometimes, and so I was just like tired. I just quit. Like I can't do this. I don't
That's
get.
understandable. I
Yeah.
mean, you can only do so much, you know.
Yeah.
Mental toll.
What was your question again?
My question was, how did your upbringing affect your work?
Mm.
Also, how does it affect your art? Could you do your art like is a full-time thing, right?
No,
Or
well, I was subbing, but I'm trying to quit that job. I'm trying to quit that job. I'm doing everything
will,
possible.
girl. You will.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Put it in
It's
the
just a matter of
universe.
time.
Yeah.
Manifest.
Yep.
So that's my life right now.
I like it.
So I played college soccer too. So it also kind of like gave me the discipline and like the passion to just stay with whatever my passion was. But it got to the point.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's
I just
okay.
wanted to say I don't know too many. You are the first 2 black women I've known to play soccer.
Really?
In college, yes.
It's not that many of
It's
it.
not-
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know too many. Sorry, continue.
It's
I
okay.
just wanted to say that.
But it ended up being where I like put my identity into playing soccer on like a collegiate level. And then once I stopped playing soccer, I didn't know like where to go. Like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my identity. And so it kind of forced me to find like, what am I truly passionate about? And then that's how I came across like caring about people's mental health, caring about others. And then I found it. But I don't think I would have found it until I dropped soccer, to be honest.
You dropped soccer in college as well?
Yeah, I didn't play my senior year in college.
What was your degree in?
Rehabilitation counseling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You were going straight for kind of therapy.
Yeah.
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 For me, I mean, it had everything to do. My upbringing has everything to do with my art. Growing up in Mexico was completely different. Like and then coming here, talking about that culture shock. I mean, till this day, I miss Mexico so much. I mean, I talk about that all the time. About I can't wait to go back to my home and bring my art to my home. I know it's gonna happen sooner or later. But you know, growing up in Mexico was difficult. We lived in poverty. There were a lot of cartels at that time. It was just a lot going on. And I think one thing I forgot about growing up was that I never really nurtured my inner child. And I kind of forgot about my inner child. And then working with art, I made sure to make that a focus on my art. All these abstract things that I make and all these colorful pieces are all so that I can give my audience an opportunity to reconnect with that inner child and just have fun. You know, when you look at one of my paintings, I want people to be able to experience a fun time. And not only that, but also just enjoy themselves, you know, and go back to those simple little things that you don't think really matter, but they really do. It's almost like an opportunity to rekindle that relationship that we have. You know, we forget to nourish our inner child a lot of times. And then we wonder why we're so down and like we can't find joy in things. And like when you look at a child, it's like they're just full of joy and energy and love. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my paintings and my work and my murals. And my upbringing had everything to do with how I work now. Learning to be disciplined is not something I ever had. I think the past 5 months, I really decided to put in my all. I decided to take 6 months of sobriety just to like really push my business as much as I could. And this has been my focus. And
do you think that being sober helped you?
Oh, like, 100%. It detoxed my brain. My neurological pathways are, you know, stronger than ever because there is no substance affecting my brain. Alcohol really does put a lot of like damage on how you think, how you act, how you feel every day.
That's true. That's absolutely true. So let me ask you, I guess this is kind of personal, but not really. As far as like, do you think you women had the proper support systems from the house? And do you have it still now? Like from
our
family, from
household?
Friends, from even the industry,
Trying to get
even the industry that you're in?
I think my parents are like, it's so hard to explain that because, you know, you're doing art and black people be like, you know, black people don't do art. You know, just call Tyler Perry, just call Oprah. You know, something crazy like that, you know?
So they think as art as like entertainment, you have to be.
It's just hard to visualize you being black and a working artist because it's not always a thing you always had to
Right.
do. They they whole life built on like surviving. So they're just thinking about paying the bills,
Mm.
and you thinking about
Mhm.
like chasing your dreams.
Mhm.
So it's just two different lifestyles, And I don't think they are. I don't think it in a sense like they want it bad for you. I just think they just don't want you to go out in life and get disappointed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like get your dreams
It's a
crushed.
hard world out here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially as an artist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I ask you how old they are? Like their age range?
Like in between 50 and 60.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a different life.
Yeah.
Like
Complete,
they grew up in the
Absolutely.
different
80s,
generation.
yeah,
Yeah.
80s and 90s. So it's like we just trying to get the job, we trying to get and just survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
So
a whole different mindset
Mm.
these
yeah.
days. Mhm.
And it's just like it's not like they just don't I don't think it's negativity. I just think that like you dreaming. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You
It's
just dreaming.
more like
I think as parents, it's
parental
more about that
fear.
security.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
give their
Absolutely.
children. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Stability.
That
Mhm.
stability that you're
Do you,
like,
do they give you more support now or
I think that now that I actually showing and actually sold some, they like, oh, this is a real thing
Yeah.
that it can be visualized into like you actually living off of it, and they see all these people actually come to see it. Now it's something you can actually obtain,
Mhm.
because before that it wasn't like they was just gonna cut me off. It was like, you need to think about getting a job. Like I
Mhm.
had my master's, and they was still like, you think about getting a job,
what's
and
your
it's like
master's in?
painting.
Painting? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and they
that's pretty
like,
dope.
Yeah.
yeah, and they still like, sometimes be like, oh, you need to think about getting a job, because like, it was COVID happened, and
Mhm.
so I don't think it's like ever not support. I think it's just concern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like y'all like explain y'all's concern too, like
Mhm.
your parents concerned about y'all. Like it's just like I don't want you to go out there and just be disappointed, be struggling.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Can't like can't live, can't pay your bills or living,
I also think it's
paycheck to
different for
paycheck.
women as well. I think women have a different upbringing than boys. Boys are more so you can bump your head. They don't give a fuck about you. Like you break something there. All right, pick it up, get it up. I feel like not what I know. Y'all are women, y'all know. But just from what my perspective, you got women are more sheltered. They're more kind of I don't want you to do what your brother doing or what them doing.
That's
So
100% true.
Facts.
yeah. So I mean
Yeah.
I can understand it, but
They
it gets a little tiring.
It's like, because like, I mean, I don't know how long you've been in the art world, but like it's very true. They do take advantage of women, and like you don't like be getting paid for the stuff that men be getting paid for,
Mhm.
and it's very very difficult. Like at the very beginning, because I mean they take advantage of women. Like it's a very true thing. Like when you see them stories, celebrity stories, all that. That's very real. So it's like they don't always pay women, because you might be dealing with, sometimes even another woman can be like oppressive
Mm-hmm.
towards you, or
Mhm.
having just an old fashioned mindset,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
you're not getting paid.
A lot of times they're the ones gatekeeping you from
Mhm.
like even doing something. Like, why are women not supporting women? It doesn't
Right.
make sense, you know?
Very true.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've
So
thankfully always had very supportive people around me.
Mm.
But I think it's because ever since I was little, like I've always been very assertive of like what I want to do, who I am. Nobody could tell me nothing. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like when I was little, I remember I was in a TV show and I told my aunt, I heard it on the radio and I was like, I want to go audition for this show. Like, if you don't take me, I'm going to take myself. So she ended up taking me and it was really cool. So I think ever since I was little, people always known like I'm a little off, a little different. You
Not
know what
off.
I'm saying? Not
You
off,
got-
yeah,
just a little different
yeah,
from
speak your
everybody else.
mind.
It's confident. It's,
Yeah.
it's
Always.
not off
So
though. Yeah.
when I went to architecture school, I was the first one to go to college, after in my family. I think my mom dropped out when she was a sophomore in high school. My grandma went to school till 3rd grade. Like college was never in anybody's mindset until I went. And then when I quit that, I think there was some concern for sure. But still, whenever I decided to be an artist, nobody was ever like, are you sure that's what you want to do? I think maybe once my mom told me, like, maybe you should have a part-time job just to have some sort of security.
Right.
And I think that's when I had to explain to her, it's like, it's either all in or not.
Right.
You know, as an artist, like, if you don't push yourself like that, then I did have a backup for a few years, I think for a year and a half. And then when COVID happened, I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity to really just focus everything. I had that opportunity and I took it, and I never went back ever since. I was like, this is it. And it's just growing from there. If there's something, there's always a way to figure it out. You can always do little things like prints, anything, to have that extra income. And I had to tell myself, like, it's gonna take some years. What I want to make and what I want to do and what I want my brand to become, I know it's gonna take years. So I'm okay with struggling for a little bit as long as I'm hustling.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Right.
Like, that's that hustle mentality that's like, okay, well, I know it's coming. I trust in the universe that it's coming. And that's all you got to keep telling yourself,
Right.
you know? And that's what you got to keep telling your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kayla, what about yourself?
So my parents were pretty supportive, like childhood, because I was playing sports, and like my family is all sports. Like every man in my family is like a coach. They play collegiately.
That's cool.
Everybody.
Heck yeah.
So like I got that support. But then when I got into like focusing on mental health, it was a little different.
Really?
I think talking about mental health, and then more specifically the traumas that I work with, bring up a lot for people in general. It's like, for example, like usually when like I'm like talking to someone new and I tell them like I'm a therapist for survivors of sexual violence, their face is like they don't know what to do,
Yeah.
because it brings up a lot of feelings, some uncomfortable for
Right.
people.
Very.
So I definitely have gotten that type of feel from family too, friends, just people in general don't really know how to support me, don't know how to respond. I also get the type of people where they feel like I need to be their therapist and don't,
yeah.
share too much with me. So
I don't want to hear that shit. I'm not getting
Literally.
paid for this right now, man.
Oh, I'm not
like
on
I'm off the clock. I don't want to hear that
Exactly.
shit. But that's just, I think people don't really know how to respond, unfortunately, to topics that can be controversial, like sexual assault and
And
domestic
it's
violence.
because we never talk about them.
Exactly.
Right.
How are we going to know
Exactly.
if we never talk about them? It's like a hush-hush mentality
Right.
almost. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about pre and post pandemic. How is all of your careers been pre and post pandemic?
Like pre-pandemic, like things was like cool. It was okay because I'm like I said, I was in school like half the time pre-pandemic and half the time post-pandemic. So when I started, like things were okay because school is expensive, like you paying for it. And then like post-pandemic have like, and we're still paying, same price, but we're not like socializing with people. So I don't get the same feedback from my art like as much, and like we're going through Zoom, and it's kind of so hard to explain that because when you say it, like when you talk about it, automatically sounds negative, but it's like the truth. Like it's hard to get feedback on your art when you're like in Zoom online. So like I'm not gonna lie to you, it was tough. Like I was living in isolation.
You've had showings through Zoom or like through class?
I had class through Zoom and like the buildings were open, but like
okay.
art doesn't really happen that way. It's like more of a social thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
100.
nobody's like meeting, nobody's talking to each other or something like that. Like that's a lot of practice that kind of disappears. So like it was just like I feel like I was just in a hole. Like I was trying to get myself out of the hole, and I just so happened to luck up and like do a show and then meet my gallerist, and then meet Deja. But like I was in a hole. Like I was trying to get myself out of that hole. Like I was trying to do magazines, whatever I could, like fill out, group shows, exhibitions.
Just
Cause
hustling out
yeah,
there.
like I was trying to get
Get
up
it out.
myself out. Cause I was like last year, almost a year ago, like I was like DoorDash and like I was like babysitting my friends' kids. Cause I was like like money was like getting low, and I was
100%. I think everybody was going through that.
like, so I was trying to get myself out of the situation, like no matter what. Cause I was like, if you're not already popping, it's gonna be hard to get yourself out of this. Cause your career done stopped for almost a year and a half. What are
Right.
you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So I was trying to get myself out of the situation that I was in. That was my main focus, whatever I had to do. So I'm just trying to like keep going and be consistent, because that was definitely like a hard time, like living in isolation.
Were you selling? Two-part question. I gotta remember first question. Were you selling any paintings during that time? And did you have to do like a price cut type of thing? Or were people, and I mean, I guess around the pandemic they were giving out the little stimuluses, and but I didn't know if people were just like, I'm gonna spend it on art. Yeah,
Um, no, I wasn't selling any of my major works. I was just doing like commission work, like, and then that kind of just went away. And then I did like a little bit of celebrity paintings, but I wasn't really feeling it, because I feel like you get a mainstream culture. That's a dangerous culture to be in for women. Like you
Ooh.
might want to like you need to walk away from that culture, because it's not a safe culture to
Really?
be in. Yeah, that mainstream culture is not a safe culture to be in for women in our world. Like,
You gotta be very tough mentally.
yeah, like facts. And then it's just like dangerous. Like you want to do whatever celebrity portraits or whatever you want to do. How you gonna go to these events, and like you can never go to the events alone. Like you can never be by yourself, because somebody gonna try to take advantage of you. Like somebody gonna try to take advantage of who you are, the way you look. So I exit that real quickly. Like I was like, I'm not doing this. So now I'm more in like just the traditional art world, but like I'd rather be over here, because like that mainstream world is too. It's not safe. It's not safe at all.
I'm gonna deep dive into that. But pre and post, how's your career, and how did the pandemic affect you?
So pre-pandemic, was chill. I mean, it was like more community focused, because like we could all be in person. Like even other therapists, like after you end the session, you can just like get together and just talk and just like relax and stuff. And I think I took that for granted once the pandemic came, because then we all got on Zoom. We couldn't be around each other anymore. Like we couldn't even just have those 5 minutes of debriefing with each other. And then unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of rates of domestic violence and sexual assault happened. It went up. And so I was seeing more clients. It was honestly not safe for a lot of my clients to meet via Zoom, because, their abusive partner could be in the room.
Right.
So it just became very tricky to navigate that world during the pandemic. And right now I'm still, trying to figure that out. And a lot of therapists are too, trying to make sure that their clients are safe with these rates that are continuing to go up, but wanting to still provide the services because they're so needed. So it's just a tricky thing to balance right now.
Yeah, I called a therapist. She was booked and busy. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, I didn't know people were just.
Oh,
going.
yeah.
She
I
offered me
think a
a
lot
10
of
a
people-
10 p.m. on a Thursday. I said,
Yes,
"God
yeah.
damn, what the fuck I'm finna
I
do?"
just opened up my nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Lord, y'all booked and busy.
Yeah.
But using it, what about you, pre and post?
Pre-pandemic, well, like I said, I started painting in 2018, and then in 2019,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this full time, because it was only like maybe one commission every 4 months. You know what I'm saying? And little commissions. It was like $40 commissions. You know what I'm saying? This was in 2018 when I first started painting. And then in 2019, I had been doing marketing for a commercial real estate brand, and I'd also done marketing for the architecture firm I was working for. So I had 5 years in the bag of
Mm.
graphic design and marketing. And I said, well, how can I use that to market myself? So literally pre-pandemic, I was setting up a foundation and a body of work that I could market. And then the pandemic happened, and to me, honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because I had the security, to be honest, to not have to work at that time. Um, so I'm very grateful for that, that I was able to work on my brand
Mm-hmm.
and have that foundation. I told myself, I have to build this foundation and then I can do whatever else I want. But to have that first foundation was the main step and the main goal. So during the pandemic, I was working at this restaurant. And during the pandemic, I was at home. They asked me to come back. I said, I'm good, right? I said, I'm focusing everything, all of my energy on my artwork. Commissions were coming in, paintings were going out, Instagram was popping. It was good.
Mm.
I can't say that it was, I have to say it was definitely a blessing for me, the pandemic, because not only was I able to do that, but I was also able to take care of my mental health. I started a PTSD treatment with my therapist that really pushed my boundaries when it came to art. I was able to process all this trauma to where my brain could focus on something else
Mhm.
rather than just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I would say it was a blessing for me, for sure.
Can I ask you, and you can say no, but um, what was it? Just maybe some small. What was it that? What was it that made you feel like you had to do PTSD type therapy?
Well,
Is it the transition from Mexico to here, or is it?
I think just from my childhood was very traumatic. And I think when a lot of times people think of trauma as sexual abuse or physical abuse, but I really just had a lot of emotional abuse,
Mm.
a lot of neglect from my parents, um, which I've learned to forgive them. They are their own people as well. They have their own trauma. They were very young when they had me, you know? So I think learning to navigate all of that was what really helped me be able to even focus on my relationships. I had a very hard time forming relationships.
Mm.
And all of that has to do with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I never learned that from my parents. I never really learned how to give love, how to take love. And
I don't think nobody honestly knows how to do it the correct way.
you know, and
Nobody. It's
I think
crazy.
that's where my PTSD came from. I
Mhm.
didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't understand why I had all this self-sabotaging behaviors. I was like, what is going on? I know I want to do this, so why do I keep fucking up?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm fucking it up and I still don't care. It was so confusing to me. I was like, am I crazy? Like, and then I read this book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, love that
Girl,
book.
changed my life. I swear. Like, that book completely changed
Mm-hmm.
everything, perspective, everything. I literally gifted like 5 of those books that year. I was like, girl, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. And that's where my PTSD came from. It's just from that. Honestly, neglect can be just as abusive
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
assault or something like that.
For sure.
Because as children, we need that guidance. That's what our parents are for.
Absolutely.
You know, I practically raised myself, and that's why I had to have some of that PTSD treatment. Till
Mhm.
this day, I'm still going to through PTSD treatment.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. I could not do it through Zoom. We were doing cognitive
Mm-hmm.
therapy.
Behavior
CBT.
We were doing CBT, and we had to do it through Zoom or phone calls.
Mm.
So I didn't have anybody there to ground me. It was almost like I was re-traumatizing myself. I remember I was in a disassociative state for about 3 months, to where I probably spent like $6,000-$7,000 from my work, and I was like, that money was supposed to be for my brand
Mhm.
to keep it going and to like put that money back in and create a bigger foundation. But during that time, I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally just living through life, and that's why I had to go through it. We had to switch treatment, everything, and I'm grateful for that, because otherwise, I don't know
Right.
if I would still be painting. To be honest, if it hadn't been for that PTSD treatment and taking that initiative to do something about what was going on inside of my head.
Very good. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm always down to share, because I think it helps everybody else around me too.
For sure.
No,
Nothing to
absolutely.
be ashamed of.
Not
Absolutely.
at all.
I didn't know we were going to be so deep on this.
Dang, you asked.
You know,
It's Kayla. She actually ended up saying like
you know,
helping. You know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be just me and you, but you
It's
actually ended up helping.
I think, you know,
Like,
It's very important.
Yeah.
Mental
It's
health
important.
is
Mhm.
extremely important, especially if you're a creative.
yeah,
You
Mhm.
cannot create if there's
things.
like a turbulence, emotional turbulence in your head. And you can create, but it's like a lot of people use that pain and that
Mhm.
emotional turbulence to create. But trust me, I used to do that. But now that I have chosen the other side of creativity, it's 100 times better.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So, I want to go back to what you were talking about when you said mainstream culture. I want to get more in depth with that. Like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Okay, so me and my homegirl. I
And
won't.
you chime in, everybody. Chime
Oh,
Yeah,
I won't say.
absolutely.
I won't say who it was, because he was the
Right.
artist was nice. Like, went to this concert and I did a painting for him, and I gave it to him at the concert, and we was back back behind the building or whatever like that, and like, it's never the artist, like, kind of like his friends were, I keep saying like, but his friends were hitting on us. So I was like, I'm not finna keep doing this. I'm not finna keep doing this, because I did a couple more, but it was during COVID and they ended up, I just shipped them to the person. But I'm not finna keep like putting myself in a dangerous position, cuz we were just in the back of a building for his concert, and there were people around us, but it was only me and her, like, and a bunch of his friends. So, and his manager. So, I just feel that that's not even a positive situation to continue
How
to
was
be in.
that like exchange? Like,
He was cool. Like, he was a really cool artist.
It was the friends around.
I've never done celebrity portraits like that, to where like I went and met up somebody. I wonder what the exchange is like. Do you reach out to them on Instagram, or like,
Yeah,
is that how it works?
I reached out to him on Instagram and did it. And he, like I said, the artist was nice, but you don't ever know who's around him, because
Right.
See.
they just keep random people around them to protect him, and the homeboy could be just a manager, homeboy, another homeboy is just a producer.
Yeah.
So
It's like how we talked before we started rolling, where the fame or the views or the fame can kind of get to people's heads, where to where they kind of almost have a weird entitlement.
Have
in
a
being
Yeah.
around them.
disregard for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So you're kind of more like product wise, or you're just you're what I can consume right now,
yeah,
and then when I'm done with you, I'm done with you, kind of thing.
yeah. But the artist, the artist is nice, and then it's like you hit those people up on Instagram, and sometimes it could be a hit or a miss.
Right.
And I was tired of missing and putting a lot of effort into this,
That's
and I just felt
it's your
like,
materials, like
Yeah.
that's cost too.
yeah, and I just felt like they wouldn't have missed me if I was a man. I'm be honest with you, they wouldn't have disregarded me as much if I was a man, and they disregarded me, and I was pretty much through, because people feel like you're not worth anything, if you're sometimes not a man, or if you are or if you're a woman and you gotta constantly fight for your worth. I said, I'm not doing that.
It's
I'm
tiring.
not doing that. Like, I'm better than most male figurative artists, to be honest. So I'm not gonna, I'm not
Look in the
gonna.
camera and say it.
Yeah.
Say it with
Yeah,
pride.
Bro, know your
Yeah.
worth, you know.
You
You gotta know
know?
your worth.
Yeah.
So they just be charging everything, running a high price, and I can barely get even a little bit of my worth. So it's definitely a frustrating thing, and I've seen it happen before, and I've seen the situations it happens in, how people favor men over women,
Mhm.
and it's very frustrating. So I just try to go where I'm appreciated, not tolerated, because it's
There
never
you
gonna
go.
get
I like that.
it's never
Yeah.
gonna get any better. Like, they're just gonna keep treating you like trash. So
And you're not trash, so
Absolutely.
don't be treating me like that.
yeah.
You know?
And then, people just want you to be fake. I'm not doing none of that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just, like I said, you just have to be very, very careful of art in the entertainment business, because it's a very, very real thing. And
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that real until I just saw it firsthand. I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy.
Wow.
I've been around a few celebrities. It's a weird thing. It's almost like they're damn near kind of not even human at some point. They kind of, even the smallest amount kind of separates them to where they have this weird fucking stigma about them. It's like,
A God complex.
yeah, that's how it is, but it's like, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
I'll be
Mhm.
nah. But yeah, it is a weird. I didn't think it. Well, I didn't know it would happen in like painting industry, but I guess maybe it just happens with anybody that kind of gets some sort of recognition, fame, or anything like that. They kind of have this weird thing about them. Have any?
No, honestly, I've never been involved with that industry. I've done a few portraits, but they've all been commissioned. So I don't know much about it.
So, then I'll ask this question: What, um, what is your least and favorite? What's your least? Yeah, that makes sense. What is your what is your least and favorite part of the profession that all you are in?
Ooh.
I think for me, my favorite part about it is, well, the self-expression. I mean, I've always been a expressive kid. I still think of myself as a kid sometimes, not even gonna lie. I'm very connected and I'm very in tune with that inner child of mine. Um, that ability, you can do anything with painting. When I first began as an artist, I was drawing and using charcoal, graphite, things like that, ink. And then when you move into painting, that feeling from like brush to paint to canvas, it's something unreal. Like the type of concentration and flow I've been able to reach, it's a really beautiful feeling to have that in your, like, to have that flow and not be able to stop. It's like, what? That, I think that's my favorite part about it. Able to like to be able to enter these flow states. Best thing ever. It's a high, honestly. It's a high. It's my favorite. My least favorite thing about it, I think that artists have been taken advantage of for a very long time. I think and this is something that I'm still struggling with today as a young artist. I've never been in a gallery. I've never had an agent. I've had many people reach out. However, I feel like every time I would talk to somebody, it was about how I could make them money, how they can make money off of me. Does that make sense? Like, my brand is established. What can you do for me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of galleries do this. They buy paintings from up and coming artists for very cheap because they know they're good, and then they go and flip them like 3-5 times, and they don't. That artist is never gonna see that money, like, ever. So I think that's the least favorite thing about the art industry, is that a lot of artists don't get the recognition they deserve. They don't get paid what they deserve, and I'll leave it at that.
Very true.
I can go.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, I think they're going to be the same answer. But my favorite thing about it is just being able to be this person for people who like allows them to be vulnerable, allows them to express feelings that maybe they've been shamed for. I also have PTSD.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of healing and being able to be that person that I wasn't able to have when I was experiencing
That's
my
beautiful.
trauma. And so it's this beautiful thing and it's fun being able to like be on the other side of it. But um, it can get hard sometimes. Like sometimes I can get reminded of that PTSD. Sometimes I can get burned out. Um, Therapists get burned out so fast.
Absolutely.
So it can be just kind of sometimes good, sometimes bad. You know, you have to have like a lot of like fun, healthy coping skills in place so that you don't burn out. But sometimes it's just going to happen where you get reminded of your own trauma, or you'll just get reminded that you still have some work to do too.
Right.
And then, you know, I'll get that. But it definitely, my favorite part is being that person of being up like the conversation of mental health. I love being able to just put that in like a room of people that don't want to talk about it and just being like, boom, let's talk about it. And it just happens. And I
Mhm.
love being able to be that person. So
Heck yeah.
Like that. I like that. Did you have an answer yet? Or
Oh, me?
oh,
Like the good part?
you can, yeah. I mean,
I like you can I can make my images of, of whoever I want to, because I know she mostly works, abstract, but I mostly work figurative. So I like, you know, making people feel good in the sense of like telling a story through people and interacting with the community. I think that's a big part of why I paint, and that's a fun part about it, to see the way it turns out,
right.
and having those same people who I painted sometimes come to the show or see their work and see my work, and I don't know, just feel proud of who they are and confident. So I think that's kind of where I get the sense from, and like, living out all your childhood ideas. I think that's just dope. Like, not even being limited to the canvas. Just working, like you said, working with brands and doing commercial things. That's just a cool thing to do, because you have all these ideas as a kid, and a lot of times you don't ever even get to do them. So art is like one way where you actually get to live out all those ideas if you do become successful. So,
What is your medium? What is the medium that you chose that you're best at? And what tools do you best use?
um, I can do oil paint. I can do acrylic. I do stuff in ballpoint pen. I've done stuff with pencil. Um, I've done stuff in charcoal. I can do a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of mediums. I've done like printmaking. I can do a lot of mediums. So yeah, that's kind of. But I mostly use oil paint.
Okay.
My medium
You
right
can do
now.
tools. The
Yeah,
tools question is yours,
yeah.
'cause I know
I'm like, don't look at me,
Yeah,
girl.
there's different
I'll
tools.
think about it. You can go
Yeah.
ahead.
My medium is absolutely acrylics.
Mm.
I do a lot of acrylic work. I do a lot of woodwork as well. I like to cut my own pieces, and I'm just very hands on. I like
Mm.
building shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I like to make things from scratch. Right now, I use when it comes to paintings, I use acrylics, digital work. I do digital work, but it's not my favorite, so I don't talk about it a lot.
Oh, I want to know what tools you use.
um, so like there's a lot of different types of therapy, but mine is pretty eclectic. So I use different types based off of who the client is. But my main focus is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it basically just means that you can't really reach your mental health. You can't really reach focusing on that mental part until you get
The
that
basis.
physical part first. So, basic shelter, basic eating, things like that. You have to make sure that that is taken care of first. And so I use that with a lot of my clients just to make sure that that is taken care of, because unfortunately, a lot of types of therapy are privileged. They are set up for a person, usually it's a white person of privilege, who has all of those things taken care of. And so it's really easy to just say, okay, we'll feel better if a person has like all those other things taken
Right.
care of. So I, want to validate my clients when they're, people of color, people who are like low socioeconomic status, that let's work on, making sure you're safe physically before figuring out how to be safe emotionally.
Mm.
And so that's like my big focus right now with clients. And then just validation and empathy is huge tool that I use. A lot of my clients are survivors of sexual assault, and they don't get support from the community. They're shamed. They see survivors in public get shamed, so they don't really have a lot of feelings of validation. So I really like to provide that too for clients, of just supporting them and letting them know that it's never their fault, and that a lot of people are uncomfortable with it, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them.
Right. Beautiful. And that's true. Get therapy.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody. Shit. Write in the diary. Something.
Mhm. Journaling is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wow.
Get that shit out. Want to know what artist, what book, what music do you like to that gets that gets you flowing, that gets you really creative?
Okay. My favorite artist, like painter, like I really like Barkley Hendricks. I really like Keenan Wiley. Artist named Jennifer Packer. The artist named Jenny Seville. Like those are probably some of my favorite, just figurative artists. Music is probably just gonna be like some neo soul, like some Lauryn Hill, Erica Badu, so I can just be like calm. Um, what else did you say? Music.
Music, book. It could be anything.
Oh.
Anything that inspires you to where, like you get the maximum creativity out of yourself.
Okay.
It
I'm
can be any of it.
okay. So I mostly read books, probably like close to about blackness or about my identity, and that definitely helps like me navigate, the world and what's going on, or about being a person of color, like navigating. So I read some Toni Morrison and James Baldwin and stuff like that.
Have you read Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome?
No, but I've definitely heard of it.
I want to
Fire.
read that.
Fire book.
I want to read that.
Shout out to, I don't forgot who.
I can't remember her name either, but I know the book. But like, I was just reading.
Do pause, something like that.
Yeah,
But shout out to you.
I just seen her name. I'm reading. What was I reading? I'm just finishing up Bell Hooks, all about love, and it's pretty interesting.
My
book.
favorite.
Yeah.
I love love.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, she talks about love as like, how we tolerate stuff in friendships that we wouldn't even tolerate in romantic.
Girl.
Interesting.
It's that we wouldn't even tolerate in romantic relationships, and how the culture as that we're in right now is so self-centered and selfish.
Individualism is huge.
Yeah, to a point where like, people don't know how to just give love freely and like and give it with no stipulations attached or without any benefit, because that's kind of is the culture that we live in right now. Like,
I think I read something that said something similar to that. It was like, if you give love expecting something back, it's just a business transaction.
Transactional.
Yeah, it's transactional love, and that's not real love.
I think everybody's relationship is that form. I can't really. I mean, can you really think of like who gives you unconditional love besides your parents? Sometimes your parents don't do that, but
I think there's a difference between love and a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like a
Mhm.
relationship is a mutual agreement that you're gonna give love back and forth, right? It's a mutual thing. And then when you think about love and doing something out of the kindness of your heart and just love, now that's a little bit different because you don't have an agreement with this person to have this back and forth
Right.
of transactions. Pretty much, when you're doing something out of love, like she's talking about, that's out of your heart, not expecting anything back.
But that's what I say. I think that's unconditional love. I don't. Do all of you have you all felt unconditional love before?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I mean, I don't. I would disagree because I don't think humans have the ability. Well, not dissing her, but I don't think humans have the ability to give unconditional love.
Mm.
Because if you hurt my feelings, like I'm not gonna be
Right.
have the capacity to love you. Like, I mean, I don't know if anybody religious, but I only think God is the person that can give us unconditional love. Because like it has to be some type of conditions of respect there.
Mm.
And I just think that, you know, in the culture that we living in today, like it's just a lack of basic mutual respect, you know, for the person on the other end. And it's just I think that's kind of what people missing. Like we think that, you know, if we think that if we be being selfish and then that's giving love, but that's just us begging for attention and validation. Like we was
Mm.
just talking about that, like the constant need for validation. But
Mm.
like you just gotta have self love and self respect, and I guess grace.
And mutual respect and unconditional love are very different. Like
Yeah,
I feel like people can use unconditional love almost to manipulate that person and be like, well, you said you're gonna love me no matter what I do.
Well,
yeah,
unconditional love is. I'm saying it between when I say it, I mean two people had it for each other. Not one person had it and then they use it because it's exactly how you were saying it. It can be a manipulation thing, whereas like said you were gonna love me through all of this.
Yeah, through thick and
But
thin.
goddamn, you done burnt the house down, sold all our
Right.
shit. How much do I? You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? But yeah, what I want to know about when you said
yeah.
you.
I have to disagree. I think unconditional
Well,
love
it's
does
not a disagree. You
exist,
got
you know?
you two aren't
Yeah.
disagreeing. It's
Yeah.
you're having.
Yeah, I guess
just
from my
different.
perspective,
Perspective.
I'm a big love. Like I love love, and I love seeing people love each other and show love for each other. I'm not a mother myself, but I have seen people change when they become mothers. It's like you didn't know love before, and then they have children, and it's that you really see people change. Like children really does change people, and I think that's one way to learn what unconditional love is. No matter what, like you can you can love someone and still have boundaries.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I still love you.
Mhm.
This love is still here for you. That does not mean that I'm gonna let you walk all over me.
Right.
That doesn't mean I don't love you though.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's where I can see, from my perspective, that's how I see unconditional love. Like I think a lot of times we get confused and it gets a little like muddled, that conversation. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
It can be a little bit muddled because a lot of people think like, oh, well, like no matter what, you're going to have my back, right? You're always going to love me. And it's like, yeah, I'm always going to love you, but that does not mean that my boundaries are not going to change in this relationship.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's what I have to say. I'm a big lover
It's
girl.
Well, she basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we basically actually
Yeah,
saying the
pretty
same
much.
thing. Like
Different
I
perspectives of the
I
same
thought she was
thing.
just saying like she giving it, but we basically actually saying the same
Yeah.
thing. She called it love. I would have called it probably care and concern, but
Caring concern.
but
Well, it's
she-
still
yeah,
love.
it's
though.
actually
it's still
yeah.
love.
You actually we
you're
basically
still
saying the
showing
same
love.
thing. Yeah.
Just a little different perspective.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how does coming off unconditional love, how does your careers what you do and how you think, and how does it affect your relationships?
Well, well, ooh, like I feel like it's one thing to have success, and it's another thing to like share it with the people around you. I
Mm,
feel like that's that's like truly like showing people you care about them because you're giving them the opportunity to not not take your success, but like you giving others opportunity as well. And I think that that's to me like showing love in a sense of I'm taking care of me, but I'm also trying to take care of you and make sure you okay as well, and sharing that success. And that's kind of how I try to operate in my relationships. Not just wanting success because you want to be popular
mm.
or you want to be famous. Everybody has that immature thinking, but actually,
Is
like,
that your success?
no,
What is it-
what?
what is your success? Like
Your
when you said
idea of
yeah.
success.
Oh, no, no, that's not it.
Oh.
Oh, I'm saying like sharing it with other people.
Mm,
and caring about other people and making sure they're successful as well, and they can take care, or putting them in positions to win, or making it easier for the next generation of artists, or
mm,
offering something phil- philanthropic on a long-term basis.
mm.
And I feel like that's like the true meaning of success, and making sure everybody wins, everybody eats, everybody can take care of their family, take care of their friends.
Mm.
That's like true meaning right there.
But how does that affect your relationship?
I
That was
mean,
I fucked up and
oh,
asked you a question within the
but
question I
how
asked
does
you. I'm
that
sorry.
reflect my?
Yeah. So how does
Oh,
your
I
work,
just
your
try to like
time, all that
keep
stuff?
keep. I just try to keep real people around me. Like if I see fake, I'm dipping. I see BS, I'm straight dipping. Like I still like me and Kayla been friends since high school, so I keep the same people around me. Like I don't operate on fake. So I think just being real and being honest is how that affects my relationship, and not even being about the BS. That's kind of how I am, and like keeping your circle small, but just having real friends, and that's how affects my relationship. I don't really have no romantic relationship because like girl been broke trying to get off her feet, but like um in friendships, I feel like that's still important.
Mhm.
Just being honest and being a real friend, and showing up when people need you, and vice versa.
I like that. What about you?
Um, it's it's definitely difficult because
Keep talking.
I'm
Use the
like,
bathroom.
okay, I am like helping people with like navigate how to have healthy relationships, and like how to put themselves first and set those boundaries and still find love. And then I'm struggling. Just kidding, but
Struggling to find your own love.
but it's really just what happens is it kind of makes me pessimistic. It kind of is like, dang, everybody's fucked up. Like, will I ever
Kayla,
find this?
yeah.
I'm always hearing these stories constantly about like people not being able to do these things, or not being able to communicate. And then like I'll see those same behaviors or habits in other people that I'm interested in or interested in me. And I'm like really quick now to just be like, ooh, red flag, let me not. So it just makes me more like, it makes me observe and judge much quicker,
Mm,
which you would think I wouldn't, because I'm understanding of my clients, but it
yeah.
makes me in my own personal life be more judgmental.
I can see how like it's hard to look at your own life from like over here, because when
Mhm.
you see your clients, you're over here.
Right, right.
But when you're talking about yourself, you're in it.
Yes,
You know what
very
I'm saying?
different.
So it's like, how do you put yourself out here where when you think of your own thoughts and your own judgment towards people, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's hard.
It
I
is.
mean,
It is.
shoot, I'm not a therapist, so I wouldn't know, but like I often wonder about my own therapist.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, girl, how are you doing? You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
I love her. She literally changed my entire life.
That's so
I'm
good. I
so
love
grateful
that.
for her.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I always am like, I feel bad because I'm like preaching and like sharing these tips with the clients. And I'm like, am I listening to these tips too? Like, am I doing this in my own personal life? But
Girl, I can see that.
but
how
you know, yeah, I'll hear it from like my own friends, like tips, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I just told my
taking
client
your
that.
own advice
Yeah,
can be hard.
yeah,
Like,
it can.
taking your own advice is hard. Like you say something and then you find yourself
Doing
doing like
it,
that.
like,
You're
doing
like
the same
"Wait."
thing.
yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
so hard to talk about other people's relationships and be
Yes.
like, what you should be doing.
Right.
You should be doing this, or you should not be doing that.
But you
Don't
in
take
it.
that.
Yep.
And then you're over here doing
Doing
the same thing.
exactly.
Like what? It
Yeah.
happens though. We've all been there. I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Definitely.
It's hard. It's hard to like apply advice to your life because it's easier said than being done.
Right.
100%.
For sure.
girl.
You may have to
Yeah.
cut some people off and have some uncomfortable conversations,
Yes.
and who wants to do that
Yes.
Mhm.
in this day and age?
And-
Because
yeah.
it's like you cut people off, and then people be like, "Oh, you don't like me," you know what I'm saying? But it's just like you just have to have an uncomfortable conversation. But
Yeah. And I
It's
think
like
it
no hard
hurts.
feelings. It's just like
Yeah.
you're just you're not just don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
I don't mean like I wish you wrong or I
Yeah.
wish like I don't want you to succeed. It's just that we're not vibing at the same frequency.
Yeah.
You
anymore.
know? Anymore. Exactly.
We
Yeah.
can in the future. Like maybe you should get your life together.
Maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
Strong maybe.
But it's
And
strong,
also-
maybe.
But it definitely, I feel like, is hard because I am so understanding with my clients and so like willing to understand why they act the way they act or whatever. And so I want to like keep that same understanding and empathy, but also don't want to get ran over by
Yeah,
people
girl.
that like I have a romantic relationship with. So it's like hard to find that prime balance.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Y'all
Can you repeat the question for me?
How does your art, career, time how
Affect
does
your
it affect your
relationships?
relationship?
I think it's helped me get more connected with people. Absolutely. Getting commissions is very interesting because people talk about what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
And like I do consultations. I go to their homes, look at this space. Where do you want your piece? Let's talk about like what you want this room to feel like. All my stuff is very abstract. So that's very important when it comes to my work. What colors am I going to use? It's definitely helped me understand people a little bit better and almost like it's like a vessel to create connections with people that I would not be able to do before my artwork. Painting taught me love.
Mm.
Painting taught me that feeling that it is to love something for real. I remember crying because I had never really felt that before for something like an image, you know? And I was like, wow, I want to feel this again. And I never wanted to stop after that. I was like, I never want this feeling to not be here. So I think it has provided me a way to help people feel that love too, you know?
Yeah.
Let me ask you with that. Do you feel? I've seen some quote where it said, "Artists have to go through pain to create." Do you think that's a valid quote? Do you think, and that's any type of artist, doesn't matter where you're at, but do you think there has to be some level of pain or some level of darkness?
Well, I mean, I feel like everybody goes through suffering, not just artists, but like you understand. You talk about the concept of starving artists, or and but that concept don't make sense to me in the sense that everybody struggles, everybody starves in a sense. Like when you first starting a business,
Well,
food.
I think it was more so. The quote was more so like you're putting it out to the world.
Putting pain.
You're putting your pain out to the world for it to be talk shit about, critiqued. Like it's
It definitely takes a vulnerability
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
artist. Absolutely.
yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh,
Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and be able to
Sorry,
take that
I didn't.
criticism.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
explain it that great. Forgive me. That's what I meant though, but
Um,
because it does take a different type of person to get on stage and act. Put put an hour, 2-3 hours into some painting
Mm-hmm.
and put it on the internet in the real world just for somebody to say you ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't shit. The
Man,
fuck?
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
yeah, you definitely got to be like vulnerable with people and be open about your feelings or open about something that you went through, and that could be difficult because you're like afraid to get rejected or afraid to not sell or people don't like it or people criticize it. But you got more responsibility to yourself than you have to other people. So you can't really worry. I guess you can't really worry too much about what people had to say more than what you had to say about
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard sense of confidence to have because especially with art, people get stuck on one thing and it's like they don't want to see you make nothing else. You kind of have that signature look and that's just kind of just it. But just having the confidence to know, this is your soul.
Know your shit.
Yeah, bearing your little soul out there. So
Yeah.
just being sure of yourself.
That question can be for you as well. I feel like being a therapist is an art form. It takes a level of creativity, but it also takes a level of, I think, darkness to kind of want to even sit there and actually listen to all the shit
Mm-hmm.
that people go through. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely I agree with what Sharon was saying that like honestly the word darkness can be subjective. So like everybody has something that is dark to them.
Right.
Everybody goes through dark things and I think there's so many platforms that you can like use to express that darkness. So I like expressing it through therapy because it normalizes that everybody's going through this shit.
Mm.
Like the fact that like there's so many therapists out there, there's so many people needing these things, it normalizes and it kind of makes the darkness a little bit dimmer. And then just the fact that there's all these treatments and so you go in there and you're like, oh, there's like you have to go to school for this. It normalizes that, oh, like this is a thing. Like my depression, my anxiety, whatever I'm going through, that is a thing. And it's normalized. So I do think I honestly don't remember what your question was, but
I mean, I
Do
think
artists have to go through pain?
yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely think I think you have to figure out a way to deal with your darkness because I'm going to say that pretty much every therapist goes through darkness. You have to figure out a way to deal with it and then be able to use that platform in that way. But I definitely think you have to go through some type of darkness, which everyone does.
right.
Your darkness in somebody else's eyes might not be that dark, but I definitely think everyone goes through their own.
Absolutely. What about yourself?
True. I think suffering is inevitable. It's how you deal with your suffering. That's good. That's what really matters. So, yeah, I think I think every artist is gonna go through darkness. It's just something that you can't escape. It's the thing about that is that you have to make sure that your emotional intelligence is up to par to be able to deal with that criticism, to be able to deal with that feedback that you may not be expecting, and that's what it's going to take in order to be an artist. You gotta have a strong backbone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Yeah, I agree with everything. It just made me think about when I seen the quote. Made me think about because I used to be I don't know what they call it, but I used to work at a group home, and it made me be like, you got to be a certain type of person to kind of be around this,
Mm-hmm.
like, cause it's a lot of shit going on. Like it's a lot of shit. People, it's always some fighting.
What's a group home?
A group home?
Yeah.
Sorry, you caught me off guard with that.
Sorry, I just
No,
never
it's okay.
heard of that.
Group home. So essentially, it's where kids that get taken away from their parents, may not have parents,
Like a foster home?
something like that.
Something like
Typically,
that.
like
Okay.
that's what it is. So, but a group home, they keep you there for a certain amount of time, and they're trying to get you to
Sure.
either a placement, like a home placement, or you either go
See.
back to in the system.
Mhm.
Essentially, is what it is. Yeah. So it was just a little rough.
Yeah, no,
And it just made
that's
me think about it.
mhm. I think the thing about that pain is that us as humans, we somehow always find a way to express it.
Yeah.
Like we unknowingly find a way to express it. I think it's just instinctive to want to get that out.
Mhm.
I mean, who wants to keep that in? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, but
sometimes
there's-
we suppress it and we
Yeah.
suppress it and we suppress it.
But it'll always come out.
And then guess
Mhm.
what? You find yourself doing art.
Yeah.
You find yourself doing this. You find yourself doing something that essentially gives you the opportunity to deal with the darkness and
Right.
deal with that suffering.
Right. I agree. I want to know, what story do you all tell through your specific through the specific things that you all do?
Well, like I said, I mostly paint like figurative people, figurative artworks and people. I just mostly tell the story of like I said, Black people like navigating America or what we going through. Um, some of my drawings were like navigating the white gaze and what that is, and some of my drawings were just like navigating emotional space,
What is the white gaze? What does that mean?
like whiteness,
Mm.
having to deal with microaggressions or people being blind to your culture and stuff like that, and trying to navigate that. And some of my work was just dealing with the emotional space that Black people go through, because I always feel like it's two different like things happening. It's like um you might be experiencing racism and that may take a mental toll on you, or you might just be experiencing just life
Mm.
and what that takes, like dealing with, like we just said, romantic relationships, or just dealing with friendships and what that is. So I guess I try to address kind of like both, like navigating both ways. It's more like about, I guess I'm really inspired by like Issa Rae and like how she made Insecure.
Mhm.
And
I
Insecure,
love Issa Rae.
yeah,
Mhm.
and how Insecure was like had some aspects of Molly was like going through racism, but she was also like battling just life, and it's just having to navigate that space. Like it's so hard to well, it's not hard to explain, but it's like, am I unemployed? Like, let's just say you needed a job, and am I unemployed because I'm Black, or am I unemployed because of just stuff going on in the world? Like trying to navigate that space and both those questions, and that sense of, like I said, just an insecurity that you just have. That
It's a layered situation.
yeah, it's
You're
so complex.
unemployed because you're Black, because you're a woman.
Or you unemployed because it's just stuff going. It's just
It's accumulation of everything that goes on.
So
It's a,
trying to figure that out. Am I are you gifted in what you do because you had to be two or three times better,
right.
or are you gifted because you just had the level of discipline? You know what I'm saying? What questions do you ask yourself? And I always say, like, the oppressive states that we are in, or sometimes that Black people are in, are just adaptations of the environment. And so so like trying to navigate that space and trying to go in between what Blackness is and then just trying to be yourself is just like a tough space to navigate. And I definitely think it creates just an insecurity, and trying to navigate that insecurity. Somewhat what my art is about too, as well.
Um.
You need me to say it?
Yeah.
So what story do you tell through your career path or the work that you do?
I think justice comes to mind when I'm thinking of like the story that I personally tell. I've been through a lot of shit.
Mm.
Like I mentioned earlier, I have PTSD. I've been through my own traumas, and I kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing to get to where I am to help people who are in situations just like I was. So I like to share that type of justice and hopefully rub off that justice onto my clients too. Um, in healing, a lot of the clients that I have experiences where they like their case got dropped because there wasn't enough evidence. Please get this. And then, there's just different scenarios where a lot of times the ending is not good. So I'm helping them to try to find healing in other ways. And so that's like the story that I'm trying to help them build on is how to find healing in a society that doesn't want you to succeed.
True. How to find healing in a society that doesn't want you to succeed. Wow.
True.
That is so true.
That's very true. I believe that whole. I believe what you said. Both of y'all had some great answers to my questions. I feel like we're doing a lot of therapy here. And I'm just,
I know,
I
and
just
I
like it.
love that.
Yeah, I
Let
just
me
like
just
it.
put that out there. I love that.
Good conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
So what about you?
I think for me, well, as you can tell, it's very playful. There's a childlike frankness to it, and the reason I keep bringing up children and our inner child is because I want to bring awareness to the importance that it is child development. I think we as a society don't realize the epidemic that developmental trauma is, and how it has affected our entire society, how we live, everything. People talk about like, yeah, I had tough parents and I'm fine. It's like, no, you're not fine. You can't form relationships. You can't keep a job. You don't have discipline. That's not fine. You're surviving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, when are you going to choose to get out of that survival mode and be able to make choices for yourself and not be reacting to everything around you?
Mm.
So I'm trying to change that narrative with my art, that it's okay to be playful, to have fun, but also be mindful of your inner child and take care of your inner child, because that's where most of our suffering comes from as adults, because we have not even acknowledged the pain that our inner child went through. And
Right.
that comes
Absolutely
from
right.
my own developmental trauma. And as an adult, I always wondered why I had so much trouble keeping and forming relationships. And it's like, once I found the answer to that, once I read this book, it was like, wow, I'm not crazy. I'm not weird. I'm normal. I was like, I'm textbook material. My life is a textbook, and it can be read right here, just like everybody else. And that's the narrative that I'm trying to bring. I want that to be a conversation to be had. And I hope that my art is able to bring that playfulness and that it's okay, and be comfortable about talking about what you went through and how you felt growing up, because that has a lot to do with how we live our lives now as adults, as young adults that we are,
Right. What you said, it makes me think about. I kind of, I kind of just think like, do we ever kind of um fix that child? Do we ever kind of fix the inner child within us? Because
I think we do.
you think so?
I think it takes a lot of therapy, but it's forming a narrative of your childhood and what happened that helps you move forward and helps keep that inner child at peace.
Mhm.
You know, it took a long time for me to forgive everything, forgive myself, forgive everything you did as a child. Like there were still some things that I was like, that I did when I was a child, and I was like, wow, I can't believe those things happened. But then it was again like I didn't know any better. Nobody ever told me otherwise. So it's like learning to forgive like those mistakes, those emotional mistakes, and if you don't learn to forgive yourself, it's very hard to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I do believe that our inner child can heal, and I do believe it takes time and it takes effort. It takes discipline, but it is possible.
I agree. Thank you all for your answers. For great answers. Um, okay. This is gonna be my last and final question. Um, do you think artists affect society, or do you think it's the opposite? The society affects the art.
Ooh, a tough one. I think it like goes both ways, but I always say art art is something that you'd never notice until it's not there. Like, could you imagine walking everywhere and there is no painted walls, nothing on the walls, no color, nothing, just white walls everywhere. So it's like art is something that's there, but it's not there. And I feel like I said, it goes both ways. Like society definitely affects art, and art definitely affects society because even in, like I said, music, film, whatever, you can shape an entire version of a person just by watching a film, watching or listening to music or watching television. You can shape
Right.
an
But
entire.
see, when I ask this question, the artists that are shaping society, society shaped them to be that artist. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
like it's a weird,
a weird thing.
yeah.
I mean,
Connected.
it's coming from a historical perspective. You can shape an entire stereotype from artwork,
Mm.
and then
Mm.
people will react or critique that stereotype of that artwork. Like you can. So it's kind of goes, like I said, it goes both ways at this point because everybody's just kind of critiquing each other. Like we see somebody doing something, and then another artist makes that challenges that idea. So I think it goes both ways, but it, I mean, in the sense of the history of Western art, what that is, it just started as people trying to spread an idea about power and influence, and that's influenced films and movies. If you want to talk about, I mean, black community and just stereotypical things, it didn't start off as society, you know, influencing art. I can get into oppression and slavery
Yeah.
and the whole thing, but most stereotypical things started off from paintings and theater, and then people just continuing those things, and it all happening at simultaneously. Like
It's
so,
almost like the what came first, the chicken or the egg
yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
When it's more of like it's happening at the same time, and people are just kind of worsening or bettering that idea from the art that they're making. So I think it goes both ways. Definitely in a position that you're in, you're gonna make the art that's affecting you the most. But if you're in societal underprivileged positions or certain state of mind, then you're definitely going to make that artwork. So it goes both ways.
I think it is. I definitely think that society shapes therapy and mental health, but I do think that when you look both at therapy and you look at society, the main two common denominators are human connection. So like they play with each other. Like they're both, you're just trying to connect with another person. You're trying to be understood by another person. You're trying to be heard. But, society is changing constantly. So of course that'll affect the way that therapy plays a role, even just with, the pandemic and how it had to change to remote.
Right.
Or just the different types of therapy that have changed over time. A lot of types of therapy in like the early 1900s was solely focused for white men. It was only like practiced on white men. It was
I
only
did not
made
know
for white
that.
men.
Wow.
Yeah, but it took, people speaking up and society changing over time for there to now be types of modalities where it's created for people of color, women, people with disabilities, people of all sexualities. And that still hopefully will continue changing because it's nowhere where it needs to be. But I know that couldn't happen without society.
Without a shift in society.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha. That's dope. Never thought about it like that because I never knew that it was like that.
Yeah, it was such a wake up call when I
I
learned
always
that.
thought it was available for everybody.
Well,
like,
it was
obviously
no,
it's
actually, it
not
wasn't.
everybody can afford
Psychology
it,
or
and not
therapy
everybody.
wasn't even a thing here till I wanted the 1930s or 40s or something like that, where it actually got recognized as your brain being an important, your emotions and everything else being important to
Yeah.
the human aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Wow.
And a lot of different things that at the time that a lot
don't
of
quote me
people
because
of
I
co-
actually could be wrong. Sorry.
a lot of things that people of color or people with lesser privileges were going through were deemed as mental illnesses. So people weren't even treating them.
Ooh.
And so society had to change for that to even be recognized as a normalcy where it's not, okay, just something wrong with you just because you have a disability or whatever.
I think it's like that that misconception that depression is an illness when it's more of a symptom of trauma. Like ADHD, all of these are symptoms of trauma.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean like that you're ill or obviously there's some sort of disability, I want to say. Like I remember I was emotionally disabled for so long, and just because I was emotionally disabled at that time doesn't mean that I can't progress and become more emotional intelligent.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a big misconception in what depression is, and just because you're depressed now does not mean that you have to be depressed forever. There's things you can do to aid in the healing and that progress that you want to make for yourself.
Yeah. And the fact that it can even be a conversation now is just like crazy because a long time ago it wouldn't be like that. Like
one time I told my aunt, she asked me why I take antidepressant medication. I was like, because I suffer from depression. And she told me, oh, that's something the white people made up.
Yeah.
I was like, it's really not though. It's really, I was like, yeah, it's not a disease. It's just a symptom of my trauma.
Right.
And it's something that I'm trying to take care of.
Yeah.
And I was like, and if you ever feel like that, don't ever be afraid to speak up about it. Don't think that your feelings are not valid. Like, I don't know who told her that, but shoot, I was like ready to bounce back and be like, that is not true.
It's a different generation.
Definitely a
Yeah.
different generation. Absolutely.
To suck it up.
It's a yeah.
That
It's a-
suck it
it's a-
up
yeah.
generation.
Because if you think about their generation, they went through way more than we went through. Then previous generations went through way more than what we went through. A physical thing, they went through the same traumatic brain type of issues. They just didn't have words to put
Yeah.
like
They didn't have the language.
right. That's what it is.
Language is everything when it comes to therapy.
People are, whether they're becoming alcoholics, whether they're just drowning themselves in drugs or drowning themselves in work, drowning themselves in whatever, that they have it. They're just finding different ways to cope with it and they're not expressing it, but they have it. It's, you have dogs biting at you. You have oppression in the work environment. You have all these fucking things.
Oppression as a woman.
You're gonna feel
like,
it.
Everything.
You're gonna feel it regardless.
Of course.
So it's
Sure, we have seasonal depression. The sun goes down. We experience depression. It's something everybody has experienced.
right.
I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You need to answer that question though. The
Hit me.
question was, do artists affect society or does society affect them?
Like I said, I think it's a I think art is a product of our environment, 100%. Um, and I know for a fact we affect society. So it's a what's first? It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's my belief. It's I don't know what the word is, but it's a relationship we have with the world, and it's crazy how everything ends up being about human connection. You know what I'm saying?
So, I want to end this. I want a part 2 because I have a million other questions, and I just want a part 2. So I want you to explain your art, and then I want you to give your socials and everything, and then I want you to give your socials and your art, and then I'm gonna make sure I put your art in here as well.
Okay.
But yeah, if you guys would like to come back, I want you guys to come back for part 2 and 3 and 6 and 7.
You want me to explain just my art as a whole?
Yeah, just it's
or
there.
this image right here.
Yeah, just
This
that image.
this painting right here actually started at I was live painting at it was like an underground house techno music event. It was super dope. It was at this place called the Fabrication Yard in Dallas. And do you guys know what that is? It's super dope, right?
Yeah.
It was really cool, and they invited me out to do live painting while the show was going on. So that's why it's like a dance going on almost. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of movement, and it could keep going on and on. You give me 5 of these, and I can keep this same pattern going. I'm all about patterns. I think that's what's helped me a lot through life. It's finding these patterns that I had within myself, things that I kept repeating. And I think that's why that translates a lot into my art. I'm very perceptive of patterns. And I like to make it fun. I like to be playful with it. It's like a child could have done this. Does that make sense? Like, because there's shape.
Could have done it.
I mean, honestly, because if you think about it, it does have a composition to it, and there is a balance to it, right? But they're very simple shapes. You have circles, you have colors, lines, and that's really it. But you create this composition. That's where the art comes in, creating that composition, finding the balance, and then figuring out when to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think this allows people to take a moment to let your eyes dance around a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I just want to make a comment. Like, the thing you're doing is so difficult because it's so difficult to reverse. Like, once you learn a skill, it's so difficult to just think about it as you were a kid. Like, it's so hard. You would think it would be easy to try to cut your mind off, but once you know
Yeah.
how to do something, it's so difficult to just try to make it childlike. Like
That childlike frankness is
Yeah.
something that I love, and I'm very, what's the word I'm looking for? I just I'm very I just think it's so important. You know, and it's, I think that will help our society a lot if we learn to heal our inner child. Shoot, the things we could do, you know, we stop suppressing, we stop resenting people for things that don't even matter anymore, like things that have been done for years. Like, you learn to move on, you learn to forgive, you learn to forgive yourself, and you find real love. It's like you open yourself up to receive and to give love. And that's what I'm trying to do with my art. I think everybody is deserving of love. I really don't. It's just, like I said, I'm a big lover girl.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
My socials are by Zeneth on Twitter and Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. But if I do have a website, it's www.byzeneth.com, or you can just Google Dora Zeneth Reynosa, and it should come up.
We're gonna put it. Can't see it, but there's a little bar with everybody's stuff right there.
Okay, awesome.
And yourself?
So my Instagram is KAYHUN_6.
She booked and busy, but still booked.
And then I have a Psychology Today profile. It's just Kayla Hunter, KAYLAAH Hunter.
Okay, cool.
My IG is Sharidyn Barnes, so it's SHARIDYN Barnes BARNES, and I don't have a Twitter or Snapchat but I do have a website, and it's just my name, Sharidyn Barnes, SHARIDYN BARNES. So yeah, I mostly only use IG. I be trying to limit my social media because I definitely don't be on Twitter.
I definitely be on Twitter talking shit all day, every day. Spreading love too.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys know mine. Fed said fuck you. I don't need to spell it. You'll see it pop up. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this. If you get the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, everything else will follow. And James 2. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so is faith without works is dead. Pray, read, go out there and make it happen. Till next time.
Yes, sir. I like that.